Hi guys and welcome to my channel. Today we continue speaking about the punctuation marks in the English language, and the last punctuation mark that we are to discuss is the apostrophe. If you haven't seen my previous videos on punctuation marks, please follow the links in the description to this video. In those videos I have already spoken about all the punctuation marks that we have in English, and today we're left with the last task, to discuss the apostrophe. In today's video, we are going not only to speak about the apostrophe, but also about the possessive case. Why? Because the apostrophe is used to form the possessive case. The apostrophe has different roles in English, but the possessive case is one of the most common. Let us start. First and foremost, we use the apostrophe to show possession, contraction. It is also used in certain surnames of non-English origin, and sometimes it is used to indicate a plural form. Let's see. The first use of the apostrophe when it is used to show contraction. For instance, to show a contraction with the apostrophe, what we need to do is to get rid of one letter and replace it with the apostrophe. For instance, E'(ER) for ever, apostrophe cause for because, won't for will not. Sometimes we can see years abbreviated, written with the help of the apostrophe. For instance, a group of novelists, poets, essayists, and philosophers active in Spain at the time of the Spanish-American War, 1898, became known as Generation of 98. Here, the apostrophe indicates that the first two numbers of the year are omitted. It's not a very common use, but you can find such contractions or abbreviations in the English language. Then we use the apostrophe in certain surnames of non-English origin. For instance, O'Leary, Dabadi, D'Angelo, O'Neill, and so on. You see that all of them are not English, and what you need to do is just to memorize how they are written. Then we use the apostrophe to indicate a plural form. Let's see the examples. From time to time, we all need to dot the I's and cross the T's. I always have to mind my P's and Q's when I'm in their company. Don't you think there are too many C's in your occasional? And the last one, skip pass free of charge for the under 5s. In the first three examples, we see that some letters are pluralized. I, T, P, Q, right? And these are set expressions, idioms. In the third case, it's not an idiom, but we also need the plural form of the letter C, and this is how we show it, by adding the apostrophe and the plural ending. In the last case, we pluralize the number. Note that in American usage, the apostrophe is used to pluralize dates. For instance, this hotel was built in 1920s. Life for the average person in the 1800s was hard. In 1970s, we would have never thought we could enjoy the technology we have today, he said. Finally, the apostrophe is used to show possession. Let's first look at some examples. He always forgets his wife's birthday. The manager spoke highly of the boys' teamwork. The hamster lives in Luca's room. I want to discuss the possessive case in more detail because there are some rules that we need to follow when we add the apostrophe. Let's start with the question, what is the possessive case? As you might know, unlike some other languages, as German for instance, which inflects nouns, articles, adjectives, pronouns in 4 different cases, English has only 3 cases. All of them are inflected in personal pronouns, but only one is inflected in nouns. And this is the possessive case. And how is it inflected? We only add the apostrophe. We say, this is my friend's bicycle. We can also say this is the bicycle of my friend, and we'll discuss the difference later today. His sister's husband is a dentist. He said the journey to the world's end changed him forever. We fell in love with Laura and Aaron's garden. Sandra's and Janet's gardens are the most elegant, and so on. So as you see, the possessive case shows ownership, possession, occupation, or a personal relation to somebody. Now let's get to some important rules of how we form the possessive case of different nouns. The possessive case of a singular or plural noun that does not end in letter S is formed by adding an apostrophe and S. For instance, the boy's eyes reflected disappointment. Air pollution is one of the Earth's biggest problems. Anne's parents work in construction. Tom's father's cousin is only 15. Two possessives are here. My friend studies mice behavior. They turn their children's stories into stunning books. And the shop sells women's clothes. So it doesn't matter for us whether we are dealing with a plural form or with a singular form. What is important here is that we are speaking about the nouns that do not end in letter S. For instance, the fifth sentence contains the word mice. Mice is the plural form of the noun mouse. So we don't care that it's a plural form. What we care about is there is no letter S at the end of it. And if there is no letter S, we can add both the apostrophe and the letter S. So we get mice. The next example also contains a plural form, children. In the possessive case, it becomes children's. Women is another plural noun, so we get women's. Now, the possessive case of a singular or plural noun that ends in S is formed by adding an apostrophe only. Let's see. The boy's boots were all covered in mud. Cat's behavior is sometimes very strange. We have plural nouns. They end in letter S, and so we only add the apostrophe. Now, what do we do with compound nouns when we have several words? Where exactly do we add the possessive? To which of them do we add the apostrophe? To form the possessive case of compound nouns, the S is added to the element nearest to the object that is possessed. Let's see. A Director General's responsibilities cover the entire management process. Socks can clog up the washing machine's drainage, causing it to overflow. He always forgets his mother-in-law's birthday. His house catches a passerby's eye. Director General, washing machine, mother-in-law, passerby, these are all compound nouns. The possessive case, that is the apostrophe and the letter S, are added to the last component, to the component that is closest to the object that is possessed. Now, what do we do if we have two possessors? If something belongs to two people, for instance? Joint possession is indicated by placing an apostrophe on the last element of a series, while to show individual or alternative possession, an apostrophe is used on each element of a series. Let's see. This is Tim and Alice's room. Here we see that the room belongs both to Alice and Tim. But there are Tim's and Alice's clothes in the wardrobe. Here we see that Tim has his own clothes and Alice has her own clothes, and they are in this wardrobe. Now we have discussed the possessive case of nouns. But personal pronouns in English can also be in the possessive case. How do we form the possessive case of personal pronouns? Very simple. Personal pronouns in English have their irregular possessive forms that you are to learn by heart. These irregular forms do not use the apostrophe. By the way, if you want to revise the pronouns of the English language, you can follow the link to the series of videos that I have already recorded about different types of pronouns. The link will be in the description to this video. We say, I have a hamster, but my hamster is gray. We don't say I's. We have a special form, my, which means the hamster of mine. We have many friends abroad. Our friends live in different countries. She owns a boat. Her boat is old. He has a van. His van is German. It, for instance, the cat, has green eyes. Its eyes are green. Though it's its, pay attention that there is no apostrophe. And they own a house in the mountains. Their house is made of wood. Now, in the brackets following each of these examples, you see sentences, alternative sentences that contain the so-called independent possessive pronouns like mine, ours, yours, etc. If you don't remember when, in which situations we should use these forms and not my, his, their, and so on, please check my video on the personal and possessive pronouns. The link will be in the description. Now, what about indefinite pronouns? How do we form the possessive case of indefinite pronouns? Possessive indefinite pronouns, also known as impersonal pronouns, require an apostrophe. Everything is just the same as it is with nouns. The seller and the buyer wrote down each other's phone numbers. One must respect one's parents. There is someone's bag on that chair. The students read one another's works. Finally, I invite you to pay attention to the following general terms in which the possessive case is used. Let's look at the examples. The contract was made at arm's length. Here we are not speaking about possession or belonging to a particular arm. This is a sad expression. At arm's length means as far from your body as possible. Confectioner's sugar is extremely fine ground white sugar. Confectioner's sugar is a general term. It is powdered sugar. Cow's milk is rich in minerals and vitamins. The same. How do you treat traveler's diarrhea? Again, traveler's diarrhea is a term. You're the cat's pajamas. What does that mean? You're a beauty, a sweetheart, an exceptional person. In spoken language, apostrophe S is often used without a noun following it when a house or a place that belongs to someone is meant. For instance, I'm staying at Anna's tonight. By that we mean in Anna's house or in Anna's apartment. But we do not say the word house or apartment. At Anna's is enough. We never buy meat at the Smith's. By the Smith's, we mean the shop that belongs to the Smith. I stopped at the grocer's on the way home to get something for lunch. At the grocer's means at the shop where a grocer works. A grocer's place, to be precise. And Jane bought this cake at the baker's this morning. Again, the baker's place. For euphony, nouns that end in S and in CE and are followed by a noun that begins with the letter S form their possessives by adding the apostrophe only. For instance, for goodness sake, Mary, where did you find this poor creature? Goodness sake. There are already 3 letters S. There is no need to add one more. Let's have lunch at the university canteen for old time's sake. The same time's sake, right? Please take this little gift for old acquaintance sake. Mind that the auxiliary verbs is and has are also contracted to the apostrophe S. If you only start learning the English language, this may pose a problem to you because at the beginning you will have to think what form you're dealing with. Let me demonstrate that with some examples. The neighbors had a dog. Its barking would wake me up every night. Look, it's the cutest dog I have ever seen. It's been 5 years since they moved to Milan. So in all of these 3 sentences you hear it's sounds the same, but these are all different things. In the first case, it's barking. It's a possessive adjective. The barking of it, the dog. In the second case, it's is the contracted auxiliary verb is. It is. And in the third case, it's the contracted auxiliary verb has. It has been 5 years. Jane has a boyfriend. His name is Michael. Michael's got a lot of hobbies. One of Michael's hobbies is skiing. What do we have here? In the second sentence, the apostrophe s is the contracted word has. Michael has got. But in the third example, one of Michael's hobbies, the apostrophe s is the possessive case of the noun Michael. The hobbies of Michael, one of the hobbies of Michael. In English, possession or belonging can also be expressed with the preposition of. Unfortunately, there is no absolute rule to define in which cases the possessive case is used and in which cases we should use of. Still, there are some ideas that we should consider when we choose between of and the apostrophe s. The question that we should ask ourselves is the possessor animate or inanimate? If the possessor is animate, of and the apostrophe s are interchangeable. Let's see. The man's clothes were dirty. The cat's name is Donald. Here we use the apostrophe s to show the possession. But we can also use of, for instance, the clothes of that man were dirty. The name of the cat is Donald. Is there any difference? There is a difference in emphasis. In the first two cases, the man's clothes and the cat's name, we emphasize the possessor. In the second two cases, the clothes of that man and the name of the cat, we emphasize the attribute. Now, though of and the apostrophe s are interchangeable with animate nouns, sometimes it is the structure of the sentence that will influence our choice. In some sentences, it will only be possible to use the apostrophe and s, and in others, of will be preferable. Let's see. The girl's dress was trimmed with ruffles. The dress of the girl that went up the stage was trimmed with ruffles. Can we use the apostrophe s in the second sentence? No, we can't. We cannot say the girl's dress that went up the stage was trimmed with ruffles, because the sentence becomes difficult to understand. And one more thing here. The use of is obligatory in some cases with animate nouns. When? It is obligatory when it expresses the relation of a proportion to a composite whole. For instance, we should wait for the rest of the team, not the team's rest, right? It's incorrect. The majority of students live on campus and have their meals there. The majority of, not the students' majority. With inanimate nouns, of is preferable when we speak about qualities, attributes, actions, or parts of something. It is a more natural structure. Let's see. What is the cost of living in this area? The company will be presenting a new strategy at the beginning of next year. The legs of the table should be repainted. I didn't like the end of the novel. Though, according to the rules of English grammar, it wouldn't be a mistake to use the apostrophe s in such sentences. But the of form is obligatory when we express the relation of a unit to a group. Michael has a great collection of paintings. There is a group of people at the entrance. We should not say Michael has a great paintings collection. No, a collection of paintings. There is a people's group at the entrance. The sentence is also incorrect. That's all for today. As always, I hope this video was useful and you managed to learn something new. Please subscribe to the channel not to miss my new lessons, and see you in the next video.